Woman.
Me too. Good evening and welcome to another community forum. I'm your host Byron Campbell and of course my co-host, our co-host Chris Diali. Welcome Chris, good evening.
Thank you, Byron. Good evening to all our viewers and listeners. We're happy to be here again, trying to bring you some little chit-chats and discuss some...
You call it chit-chat. This is serious issues, Chris. But let me also say that we have Cecile Noel, CEO, Spicemas Corporation. He'll be joining us later, probably around 9 o'clock, thereabout. But in the meantime, Chris, we have a lot to talk about. Hurricane Beryl, Carriacou, the islands are still reeling from this devastation. But interesting, the government has introduced a number of fiscal incentives, waivers of duties and taxes, and they've suspended the fiscal rules. What's the implications of this, Chris? And how important are these measures to deal with the present situation?
I think it's very important. People need relief, not only getting free relief, but they want to do their things on their own. So whatever duties and taxes we could waive, I think will assist. So I know the government, through the Minister of Finance, announced that they were looking at an incentive package for the businesses in Carriacou to get them back on their feet, whether it's restaurant, whether it's hardware, whether it's whatever your business in. They're going to look at an incentive package. They plan to have a consultation to hear from the businesses of there where they really need their assistance. Joined to that, the government have suspended the rules under the fiscal responsibility. Well, it's not called Fiscal Responsibility Act anymore. They changed the
fiscal
name.
rules.
Fiscal Responsibility Act, where they had tied certain things like the primary balance to GDP, the percentage, the debt to GDP, that percentage. So what that does in an emergency like that, where you could declare, where I think they have declared Carriacou and Petit Martinique disaster zones, and to some extent Sautes, that it gives them the freedom to entertain financing through debt, debt at a good interest rate and a good term.
You can negotiate your debts also? That gives you
if it's coming under disaster type arrangement.
Right,
So it gives them that flexibility to get monies quickly, or more monies than they're getting now, to respond better to the issues. In fact that they're giving up duties on barrels, looking at an incentive regime for the businesses Carriacou. That is monies the government losing on the tax side. So, sometimes you have to balance that back with loans and what you get to help with the current account and financing the current account, because you still have salaries to pay, you still have this to pay, and so on and so forth. So all of that gives them some flexibility to do what they have to do, and I think it's a good move. I know they've been getting a lot of flack for the fact that compared to what Ralph Gonsalves did in St. Vincent and removing duties on building materials have not been done by us as yet, or in any significant way. They didn't announce that, but Byron, we just cause problem for our own self. Because when the government does these things, they are saying that yes, you're getting no taxes on a barrel that comes in, I think it's still the end of the year. But some of us just look to put all kind of thing in the barrel.
But they've designated what you can put.
Yes. And
small appliances,
so
food,
I hear people complaining that if they go to clear a barrel now, they're asking them to, the customs officers telling them, take out all the stuff. We need to see. And they're quarreling. Because yes, you're not to pay, but we need to see that you're following the rules and you're not bringing in things that,
That's correct. That's correct.
So
but the kayaks are complaining. They want the relief on building materials now. They don't want to go to St. Vincent. Their view is that if Gonsalves do it, Mitchell can do it too. Chris, one of the things, we have gifts coming in, food for the poor. But are we maintaining the quality, the nutritional aspect of it when these gifts come in? Are they suitable for human consumption?
Well,
what's the concern?
And I want to take this a little wider. In the country we have specific laws that govern labeling. And recently it was brought to my attention, we have pharmaceuticals coming into the country. Only all the directions are in Spanish, no English on the label. And I don't understand how our Bureau of Standards and Customs are allowing these things to come in, because we are an English-speaking country. And the rule says that if you have to have a label, there must be joint languages. If you want to bring in Spanish from a Spanish country, then you must have English as well. We seem to not violate, we're violating that. We go into the pharmacy, we're picking up something and we can't read what's on it because it's in Spanish. Similarly, we have a lot of relief coming in via food. And some of these things need to be checked for their nutritional value and what is happening. So recently somebody told me they got some canned stuff, they had mackerel in brine. When you look at the label, it has more than 200 grams of sodium. Now, we know our problem with hypertension and diabetes. We need to be careful that the stuff that we're giving our people, imagine that going to a child and the parent preparing it, and it's salty. Traditionally, that's how we saw thing with hypertension and so on and NCDs. We've been eating salt meat and things for donkeys of years that the colonialists introduced us, and so forth. And I just think in these times, we need to be careful what we giving our people in terms of food and
but
consumption.
we have a consumer affairs unit
Yes.
presently. Their work should entail visits to business places, inspection, verification, to ensure that these standards are in fact present. But I think it's a good thing to bring it to the attention. But consumers have a responsibility also. You should not buy a product if you can't read and you don't understand what's in the product.
Imagine in Carriacou and Petit Martinique situation, you have people at a certain income bracket that can't afford yet to buy because remember, livelihoods are not there for them. They don't have jobs to make money and so on. So they will take these things and welcome it into their home. Not understanding there's a lot of processed food we get in, fine, I mean, but look at the label. Take a time to look at the label and see whether or not what is in those stuff, is thing for good human consumption.
Even though it's free.
Yeah. And even though you have to ask a question, we had a guest here the last time with food and nutrition. Make a call to food and nutrition. Take a photo of the label, send it to them and say, give me some advice on this. There's nothing wrong, Byron, in going back. We have food coming into Carriacou, yam, potato, these grown provisions with our kalaloo and so. Nothing wrong in using those things, if you have the money, of course, to buy it. So that is a challenge going forward.
Chris, of course, our neighbors to the north, the U.S. elections, there's a lot happening there. We saw President Biden removing himself. We're likely going to have a new candidate. How do you view what's developing there?
Well, I think it shows a spoke in the wheel of the Republicans. Because Miss Harris, Kamala Harris, seems to be generating quite a lot of excitement among the base.
And the money's flowing in too.
Yes, in the Democratic Party. And apparently a lot with young people as well, because she has a huge social media campaign starting or going on already. So there's an energy she seems to have brought to the Democratic Party that the Republicans probably wasn't prepared for. And so far the response by Mr. Trump has been, the usual name calling and so on and so forth. And I think the Americans probably might be a little tired with that approach. And come with substance. So if you come in and debate on substance, tax laws, this, medical health and so forth and so on. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out.
As a district attorney too, she's coming from a legal background and debating. So it's going to change the dynamics, of course. It's likely to change the dynamics there.
We can't lose sight of the history. She will be the first colored person of a woman to be vying for the presidency of the United States. I mean, we have never had that in the U.S.
Are women are likely to support her en masse?
I think so. I mean, the fact that, remember, we have had we have had prime ministers in Australia that are women, I think in Scotland and so on. So there is
England.
There is no thing about having to break the ceiling again. But in the U.S., it is quite different. And the race card will play.
It started playing already, of course.
So, but what she's doing so far, she's rising above that sort of nonsense and keeping it on point and discussing the issues that she thinks the Americans want to hear about.
Staying in the U.S., Chris, of course, we noticed that Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, is in the United States, addressed the Congress today, I believe. But what's important on this matter is that the ICJ, International Court of Justice, earlier last week, ruled that Israel occupation and presence in Palestine territories are unlawful. It should, and issued instruction that it should immediately end its illegal occupation, it should cease new settlement activities and evacuate the settlers that are there presently from the occupied territories and make reparation to all affected people for the damaged caused. Now, but of course, this is an opinion given by the World Court, but they were asked for that opinion by the UN General Assembly, of course. The question, Chris, is that Israel has in the past ignored such rulings, but there are implications because the opinion went further and advised that countries of the world should not support Israel in any way to enhance the occupation that is taking place. So it's interesting to see how this rolls out, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, and it is ironical that Netanyahu went to address the Congress, the Senate, and so on, and got standing ovations for his rhetoric that he put forward about, he need more tools quicker. I think he compared it to, in the World War II, where they said bring the tools timely enough so we could eliminate. I mean, the body count is up to 40,000 plus now. So, I mean, anyhow you look at this, it is a humanitarian, not crisis, but humanitarian edict on us all as advanced nations and advanced people at this time of our existence. And here you have this guy going to the U.S. and getting the support of the Congress in the U.S. to continue with the barrage of violence that is going on there. And Netanyahu will talk about they killed 1,200 Hamas and they didn't injure nobody. I mean, come on, with the mass bombing they've been doing, hospitals, schools, this, that. And every independent body that goes into Palestine and Israel that are allowed will tell you, come back with the same story. Atrocities happening there with people, innocent people, that, children, that you just can't understand how these guys could be thinking to do that in these so-called modern times. But war is a strange thing.
It is.
And Netanyahu seems to be an extremist, and his political life in Israel seems to be weakening with his extreme views.
It's linked to the war, too. His political life is linked to the war.
And, that is so unfortunate. If the U.S. took and we don't know what President Biden conversation with him will be. The thing with this thing today, with his speech in Congress, quite a number of congressmen didn't attend. They boycotted, and of course you had the thing outside, the protest.
The protest.
That was pretty much, vociferous in their views, burning flags and all of that and so on. So there is a situation where I think the world is getting tired and impatient with this thing to end. They want this war to end and
I think this ruling
rather than later.
And remember that we have two things pending here. One, that remember the ICJ prosecutor has asked the court for permission to issue an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. And secondly, the court is yet to rule on South Africa application to the court on the genocide issue to Israel. But listen, we have to take a short break here now. Viewers, we'll be right back.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
The Grenada Cultural Foundation, in collaboration with the St. Andrews Development Organization, SEDU, the Grenada National Preparations Committee, GNRC, and Timber will commemorate Emancipation Day 2024 under the theme, In the Spirit of Emancipation, we embrace our African identity through our cultural expressions. Are you ready to celebrate Grenada's rich cultural heritage and history of resilience? Then look out for the televised panel discussion on July 28th. Proudly don your African wear on August 1st and join the Liberation and Ancestral Freedom March from the Old Public Library to the Market Square starting at 11 a.m. Then we complete the day at the Spice Baskets and witness the reenactments of the proclamation together with our cultural presentations. And finally, look out for the continuation of the activities in Grenville on August 5th with a parade from Pearls to Grenville at 3 p.m. and the Flambeau Walk from Canal Road at 6:30 p.m. Mark your calendars and get ready to join us in celebrating Grenada's emancipation with pride and joy. See you there.
Running a business is hard. Running a creative business, that's 10 times harder. The Grenada Office of Creative Affairs understands the unique challenges creative entrepreneurs face, especially when it comes to securing financing. That's why they have partnered with the Grenada Development Bank to launch the Creative and Cultural Industries Business Development Fund. Hello. Designed specifically for creative entrepreneurs like you and me.
Unlock your full potential with our tailored financing options. Access loans of up to $50,000 at just 2% interest, empowering you to upgrade and expand your business. Receive business support vouchers of up to $5,000 to enhance your business plans, financial strategies, or marketing efforts. But that's not all. Nonprofits and community-based projects can secure grants of up to $25,000.
So, what are you waiting for? Make the call today and learn how you can finance your dreams. Contact the Grenada Development Bank and unleash your creativity.
Welcome back, viewers, to Community Forum. We are going to have a specially invited guest join us at approximately 9 o'clock, and that is CEO of the Carnival Committee, Mr. Cecile Noel. So he's going to come and chat with us on what's happening and everything Carnival. But before we go there, Byron, I want to introduce this to you. You know, with the passage of Beryl in Carriacou, we had a solar PV plant, huge plant in Limley, that was destroyed, and this was supposed to be rated for a Category 4 hurricane coming through. So the question to you is, you know, what it is we did wrong there?
Chris, yeah, let me say about this project, and I'm familiar with the project because this project goes back to the previous regime, government. But this is on Limley Farm. It's a state government farm. One of the most, I would say, arable land in Carriacou, fertile lands in Carriacou, flat. There was a debate then about where this solar farm should be located. But before that, built to withstand Category 4 and 5 hurricane, but destroyed, certainly from the pictures that we saw. But going back to the location, because that's the issue here, for me anyway, because I was familiar with this matter when it was happening, made several trips to Carriacou, because under the program I was managing at the time, the SIRE program, there were plans for Limley, because Limley, we saw it as an important national assets, and for Carriacou, where we can have a stud center, animal stud center, for animals, particularly small ruminants in particular,
and
because there were funds
sheep
for
and all
that,
of
to set up feeding grounds and other, because Carriacou has limited agricultural lands, as you know. So it was felt, and I argued this, and the conversation was, and I think a lot of support came from the agriculture division in Carriacou also, with the chief extension officer and others, putting forward the position to the politicians that was not the right decision to locate, put a PV farm using your prime agricultural land. There's no logic in this. Yes, you want to pursue that policy of reducing your, becoming more self-reliant in local green energy. And that's a good thing, positive. And the funds were coming in, grant financing.
So the question to you is, here we got grant funding from the UAE to build this
$3.2 million US.
Right, to build this solar farm or this PV farm. Who are the local engineers inspecting it to ensure that it could withstand a category 4-5 system going through?
But, Chris, and you could go there, fine, but that didn't happen. But my beef had to do with the fact, why utilize your prime lands when you have...
So do we have an opportunity now to correct this?
Exactly. So here's the point. Why put it back there? Put it on the houses, put it on the roofs of the houses that you're going to be constructing. Or marginal land. Marginal lands. So as I see it, there's a lost for prime agricultural lands in Carriacou.
And a loss for energy as well.
And a loss for energy. And I never could have understood at the time why the politicians at the time refused to look at reasoning the need for us to maximize our agricultural lands and our agricultural production.
It's a lose-lose situation in Carriacou.
Very unfortunate. But given this destruction, maybe it's a good opportunity to put those panels on the roofs that you're going to be building. That's where they belong, Andrew.
Or on some other
location.
Land that is not as
Chris,
fertile,
between us, I doubt this will happen.
So let's go finally to discuss the situation in agriculture and the response by government. You could argue that the insurance monies that farms were part of have been paid in some instances, and people are getting assistance to clear land. They have groups going around with chainsaws and so on, assisting farmers and so on. But the question becomes this, Byron. When you look at the destruction of the vegetation in Satés in particular, nutmeg trees down, cocoa trees down, root crops in terms of watermelon and pumpkin and so on,
and
destroyed.
Forestry.
And forestry, of course. The question is, because of the time, let's take nutmeg.
Let's take nutmeg.
A nutmeg tree takes 7 years to reach some level of maturity and get the first call and so on. How do farmers who are aged, by the way, in their 60s and middle 60s, are going to recover from this, to wait to plant another set of nutmeg trees, hope that if you plant them in the triangle, if the technology is right, you have to hope you get a female and wait 7 years?
Chris, that's a big question. We probably need a session for this. But look at the data, first of all, that we were producing, Grenada was producing, exporting, that is, about just around 700 tons a year. and 10% of the producers were producing 80% of those nutmegs. So most of our local producers are small. The question is, if you're going to be replanting, maybe you should target those large producers. In other words, direct the resources there, because if you want to bring back production, this is where you need to anchor your resources. But here's the thing, now you are, according to the preliminary numbers, your production are likely to be about 300 tons, given the devastation that have taken place. Understanding that your position in the international market was second before Ivan. It is now 8th position out of 11. You're likely to be further. So you no longer can call the shots in the market anymore.
In terms of pricing.
So it seemed to me that your focus must now be on added value, because it has changed the situation for you totally. But the big point you raise also has to do with who's going to plant back, when is it going to plant back. Are farmers motivated to plant back at this time? The fact that a lot of the farmers supplying the industry are over middle age, What's the strategy going forward? And cocoa is in a similar kind of position, maybe worse. So it's a discussion we need to have, Chris, the whole agricultural sector, but these are the commodities we have not touched yet on food, which, as you know, even CARICOM is saying, look, Grenada is saying we want to reduce that food import bill by 25% next year or thereafter. So we need a new strategy. We need a rethink. Maybe it's a good moment, Chris, for us to say, hold up, let us look at this thing again.
Yeah, and remember, it's not only the crops like nutmeg and cocoa.
No.
We have spices down, clove trees, cinnamon trees,
Exactly.
mangoes,
Mango,
golden
golden
apples, soursop to some degree.
Yes.
So, I mean, it is a holistic. I've heard the government announce the fact that they're looking to see, I think the PS announced that if they could have the insurance or get a different insurance to insure root crops like the vine crops that we talk about and the tree crops, so that farmers, because we have to also be concerned about the issue of those smaller farmers that live weekly by going and pick up their nutmeg and the cocoa and bring it to the association and get paid on a monthly basis for it, no longer have that livelihood.
No.
Because there ain't no nutmeg tree to get nutmegs from. So how are we supporting these farmers? Is it going to be through NIS and the unemployment thing that none of them, so quite a few of them are not NIS registered. So the issue becomes, how does the government approach it? And I think, as you say, it has to be a holistic thing.
Yeah, I think
GCNA has a big part in that to play, and I really hope they come up to the table. I mean, I hear you talk about value added, but they don't have a good track record with value added.
No.
You know, they have started a couple of local projects that is happening and is doing well.
Yeah.
You know, like the juice that they
Juices
do now.
and others.
Right, but
how can they expand this? For example, the oil production.
the greatest value add is in
the oil production, for example.
But we do have
so I think that is where the strategy has to be. That's where the thinking has to be now. And in a big way, I know cocoa. Look, you hear about Juve. You know, I want to talk about this because you know Juve is produced in the United States. You know. And that's where it's marketed as a Grenada product in the United States by this shareholder that has 30% of the Juve company in Diamond. We need to look at those arrangements closely. It seems muddled to me, you know, that and we supply that manufacturer there with the liquor, the cocoa liquor. But what are we getting back from it? Marketed on the Grenada. So we need to relook at the value and really where we're going. I think we have some good examples though. We have the Belmont produce and some others that are doing very well, but we need to look at those commodities. And
Baron, you have been a director and a board member of these organizations for years.
It's true.
Here we are, we're talking about them again, and we have said that we need to merge them, and we just can't seem to get nowhere.
It can't happen.
We don't seem to have the political will to make any changes.
This now make it mandatory. Because these organizations, same farmers, no longer have the luxury, the resources to have two separate bodies operating. Two managers, two accountants, two different set of field officers. Makes no sense. Chris, that's all the time we have on this. But we have to continue.
To change it.
We have to continue this conversation, absolutely. But we have to break to bring in our special guest, Cecile Noel, the CEO of Spicemas Corporation. Carnival is in the air. Viewers, please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Co-op Bank celebrates the 1-year anniversary of the FCIB acquisition. Here are some testimonials from some of our customers.
I was impressed with the transition service in 3 special ways. Firstly, the effectiveness and efficiency of the pre-transition communication, especially by email. All correspondence was concise and clear, and it really prepared me as a customer for moving over. Secondly, the actual in-person finalization was seamless, smooth, complete. The team were organized, friendly, and effective, and the facilities were very comfortable. And finally, probably most importantly, the online services work, from internet banking to using credit or debit card. So far, no glitches locally, touch wood, or internationally. Based on my personal experience, I have no problems in recommending Grenada Cooperative Bank.
Jude Celestine also had this to say. During the conversion from FCIB to Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, Doing business was challenging and a bit frustrating, but I must confess, due to the support the bank's conversion team has extended to me and the care of the staff at the Grand Anse branch, I was able to get to my original position where I can conduct my business as usual. Thanks for the support. We are happy that our customers are satisfied, and we remain committed to meeting the financial needs of all our customers.
Welcome home.
Experience the heart and soul of Spicemas at the Grenlec Traditional Mass Festival on Saturday, July 27th at Hero Square, Victoria in St. Mark. Join us from 3 p.m. and witness the spectacular cultural display of the various traditional mass bands such as Veko, Shortney, Wild India Jab Jab, and Maypole dancers with vibrant costumes, infectious music, and unforgettable cultural tradition. Bring your family and friends to enjoy an afternoon filled with excitement and heritage. Your presence is not just a visit, but a contribution to the preservation of our rich Grenadian culture. The Traditional Mass Festival, commencing 3 p.m. Hero Square, St. Mark. See you there. Saturday, 27 July. This event is sponsored by Grenlec.
Carnival Pulse, a vibrant live broadcast event that showcases the spirit of Grenada's Carnival, is coming to the heart of St. George's from July 29th to August 9th. This program will capture the rich tapestry of culture, music, and dance that defines this festive season. Join MTV, Fusion FM, in collaboration with Grenville Property Corporation Limited for a pulsating Carnival experience at the Esplanade Mall Courtyard from 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, commencing July 29th. Carnival Pulse is coming.
Welcome back, viewers. As we indicated earlier, our special guest this evening is none other than Mr. Cecile Noel, who is the CEO of Spicemas Corporation. We have invited Cecile to come back on the program, and he has so graciously agreed to come back and give us an update on all that is happening in Carnival. But Cecile, I want to start with this release I saw come out and was put out by the chairman of Spicemas Corporation, changing the theme to reflect what we are going through now with Beryl and how this particular Carnival 2024 is going to react to help with what is going on there. Tell us a little about that and the decision around that.
Well, first of all, a very pleasant good evening to yourself, Chris, Byron, and your listening and viewing audience. With the devastation of Beryl, we thought it really important to have some level of refocus because it's a really dynamic situation. So as our original team says, an explosion of culture. And of course, Carnival is really about culture. Our cultural heritage, what it is we stand for, what it is our people do, what it is that part of us, our cultural part of us that's really ingrained and is a part of us. But the truth be told, after we saw the devastation of Hurricane Beryl, the chair thought it fit that we do some refocusing. And it all has to do with the fact that as a people we are very resilient. We have proved it time and time again. So the whole question of being a resilient people and having to weather the storm, we saw it as really important that we, take on that new mantra, because there's a number of things happening here. We have to continue the Carnival, or we will continue the Carnival. So that's part of showing our strength despite what has happened. But more so, we saw it from a psycho as well as a socio and economic standpoint that is important that we do it. For some of the people who will be affected, having the Carnival is part of what will kind of help them ease the stress of what they're going through. From an economic standpoint, having a Carnival is part of what needs to happen to keep the vibrancy of the economy going. As we may be fully aware, Spicemas is the single biggest economic generating activity that Grenada has. So, you know, it was really important that we do that review, that refocus, and decide to carry on and have Carnival.
I saw here the theme now is people of resilience, weathering the storm together. I like that.
Yeah.
You know, because we are resilient people. And normally around August, Caribou will have the regatta and so on.
Yeah.
And join us in a different way in Carnival and do their own thing. This year, of course, they will have none of that because they don't have the ability. Outside of that, though, and the theme, how is our planning going so far? I mean, I know you have semi-final coming up this Sunday, and we have had other groovy and so on happening and so forth. We have a number of events to come, like Queen Show and all of those things. How is the planning going so far?
But the planning is going really good so far. The stage we are at now, we have just concluded a preliminary round because we had a prelims round for groovy. That happens like 2 weekends ago, and then this weekend, as a matter of fact, concluded last night, we had the conclusion of the judging of the Calypso Tents, which in fact is the preliminary stage for judging for Calypsonians. So we went through the groovy, the power soca, and we've just completed the Calypso. And I may add, you know, but in the case of the groovy, we had approximately 89 of the artists going through there. And of course, we have to filter it down with a groovy to 25 artists to go into the semi-final stage. In the case of the power soca, we had approximately 100. I think we might have gone just a step over 100 on two thereabout. And that too, the judging, you know, selection takes that down to 30. And that's where we are now getting ready to go into tomorrow, semi-finals with the groovy, and then on Friday with the power soca semi-finals. And of course, we had a very exciting period over the last 5 days, that of the Calypso Tents being judged. Last year we had 4 tents. This year we had 5 tents being judged. And again, I think the quality and standard thus far is what I consider really high. And I know people like yourself, Chris, I know you into the Calypso. So having come out of that, and we had approximately 60 Calypsonians vying for that honor of being on the semi-finalists. But part of what we also did this year, in keeping with the 50th or Golden Jubilee, is to include the finalists of the Independence competition to abide. Some of them accepted and some of them decided to sing their way through. But what I think is significant is that they all made it through eventually, even those who decided to sing. And just to give you a little background on that, we thought it important to have, as part of this celebration, as we continue with the 50th, the Golden Jubilee, is to have 50 Calypso being sung at the semi-final this coming Sunday, in part of keeping. So in order to do that, we have to select this year 25 Calypsonians. Usually what we do is select 20 Calypsonians for the semi-final. So we're going to have 25 Calypsonians, 50 Calypso. It's going to be a grand celebration. So for those who...
And the venue is all in...
The venue for all the semi-finals, those are Progress Park, St. Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. For the groovy and the power, which starts tomorrow and then goes into Friday, the start time is 8 p.m. And we're really urging people to come out and support. In the case of the Calypso, it starts 5 p.m. on Sunday. And again, the same thing. I know, I mean, for as long as I remember, there's something about the Calypso semi-final has always been a thrill. I mean, you hear and you see the vehicle on the streets rushing up on Sunday to go. And I expect that kind of adrenaline flow to be there again.
What the truth is for me, I mean, the truth is that you get to hear 40 Calypso and you see all the major players in the Calypso and you get a better feel for, I mean, I don't go Dimanche Gras because I see them, as far as I'm concerned, Dimanche Gras is my semi-final. But that being said though, you know, says, Carnival is always associated with some level of controversy. I must indeed compliment you guys that you haven't had nothing so far pop up its head, because if it's not judging, in Calypso, and the complaints about that is prize money and the complaints around that and lateness of those things. But in terms of the PAN and Panorama, what is happening there? Is the PAN Association on full board with what is going to happen, and Panorama is how it's going to be constructed this year?
Yeah, the PAN fraternity and may I say the Grenada Stable Association, they're fully on board with what's happening. As a matter of fact, for 2024, this year, the association decided that they want to take on that mantle of actually, quote-unquote, producing Panorama. They have their own feel, their own liking of what they want. So they have said to the board of directors of Spicemas Corporation, hey, we want to be given that opportunity to produce Panorama the way we want it to be. We just need you to give us the relevant support in terms of making sure the logistics is in place, the financial backing of that is in place. And I think so far from what I've seen, they're doing a good job, you know. And they have a very good, capable team, led by Mr. Victor Ashby as president. And then we have some people like even Jenny Woodruff. She's back assisting them, you know. So it's a really good team, and we expect a lot for the Panorama this year. And I would just add Panorama, as well as you have the Children's Carnival Frolic, the Queen Pageant, the March Grand, the Groovy and Power Soca. Those are all going to be held at the Kiani James Athletic Stadium this year. Although you know, we faced with some challenges in terms of ensuring that the stadium is properly protected. Yes, but nonetheless, I mean, it's proven, I would think it will prove itself to be a really good venue for the activities. So, you know, things are going great guns. I mean, I just left a meeting with part of my logistic team, and for example, for the semis at Progress Park, I was told that the setup logistic-wise is approximately 95% completed. So I think we're doing very well. The setup at the athletic stadium has commenced 2 days ago, and they too are going full speed in terms of setting up stage.
We have 2 weeks left to go, huh?
Yes.
So it must be at full truck, you know?
Yeah, we are, and we are going well. We're going well.
I'm excited about the steel band arrangement, though. That's very good. Music to my ear.
But as you mentioned, Baron, before you come in, even the Queen Show Committee, they too, their approach is quite similar to that of the steel band, in that they have taken up the responsibility of putting together most of what they want to see happen in conjunction with the contestants, as well as with Spicemas.
The same location, Queen's Park?
The Queen's Park, yes, it's also going to be there at the stadium.
You know, carnival culture, people. Carnival events must be inclusive and accessible to all. You know, that's important. I want to start with the preliminaries. They weren't available to the public on a delay. They will be able the next day or thereabout. Not the majority of Grenadians will be in their homes. That's a fact, yes? What is Spicemas thinking in making it inclusive but more so accessible to this audience?
Well, first of all, let me just briefly speak to prelims.
Yes.
Because the prelims, what we did, as you correctly stated, and I mean, I just smiled when you said it was not available to the general public, because it was available to the general public.
Delayed the next day.
Yeah, but you're talking about over on the media platform.
Yeah.
But part of what we really try to encourage this year is to get the public to really be there present. Listen, as an artist, as a musician myself, I know you get that vibes, you get a pump, you get a feel when you have an audience, when you have people around you. So we tried, you know, part of our strategy was to encourage people to come there. But it went beyond that. The whole question of, if I may use the term, protecting our artists. Part of what we have noticed, when some of these events are live streamed, the chat groups, You know, some of the comments sometimes that are made, for example, if you have an artist who's not as strong as another, we have in fact realized from even interacting with them that sometimes it kind of pull them down based on the negative comments that are being made,
Well,
especially when it's
add
live.
to that, it's smart.
Yeah.
Well, I'm coming on to that part.
Yeah.
I'm coming on to that part. So in terms of, you know, what happens in the chat group and how it can deflate an artist, we also look at that. But maybe first and foremost, the quality of what we send out to the world, we saw that as extremely important, that we have some level of, should I say, but I don't want to use the word censure because not really
Let's say
censure.
editing.
But and that's exactly what it is, was editing. So the arrangement is that we're going to record it, we're going to edit it, and then we're going to release it after. And it's all in keeping, because at the same time, we know Spicemas as a brand has gone so far. We want to protect it, we want to keep it fresh, we want to keep it clean. And we thought it was one of the best ways to do that.
You talk about, and again from when Chris started, you talk about Spicemas changing its focus with relief effort, and you saying that part of your profit will be directed towards relief. Yes,
That is correct.
But what is the history of Spicemas? Spicemas made up. So what was 2023? In your report, you didn't indicate a profit. We know that your expenditures last year was 4.2. Now this year is going to be 5 million. You're looking at 22% additional revenue resources that you need to run Spicemas. Where's the profit going to come from if you don't have a history of profit? And the other question I have related to that, assuming there is a profit, what is it you're going to support? Where is that profit going to be directed to?
Well, first of all, let me just correct that, Byron.
Yeah.
In 2023,
Yeah.
we were able to make a profit just in excess of $400,000. We were able to, and that is part of what still keep us afloat. So
That's
I'm not quite
news.
sure.
That's big news. That's fine. We're
So we
not
are
aware of this. That's
exactly,
fine.
and we are
That's
not
good.
quite sure where that info came from. But I can tell you that we were able to pay each and every person and not owing anyone after Spicemas 2023. We're hoping to achieve likewise in 2024, despite the fact that there are some challenges, there's some dynamics that we're looking at, but we're really hoping that we can do that. And when I say dynamics, even after the passing of Beryl, you know, some of the interest that people showed or committed to show in terms of sponsorship, some of them has changed drastically. So coming to where you're saying, you know, we are working with what the liquor we get, and we're trying to see how best we can make it happen to end up.
But I want to compliment you too, and your chairman indicated this, that one of you planning to have a joint event with some of the artists and the sponsors, and in other words, like a fundraising event.
That's correct.
For relief, exactly. So that will add naturally to the point you make. But I want to go on, because one of the big issues with Carnival is the question of security, traffic, control. Youths and alcohol. I'm throwing all of them together, but particularly traffic and transportation. Where are you on this? How secured, how confident can you make us feel in these areas?
Well, I want to leave, when I leave, I want both of you as well as the listening audience to feel really good about it.
Right.
Because we have a dynamic team that we work with closely in terms of security and police. So, for example, on our board, we have Superintendent Issa Pear, who works closely with us. And last year, we had ACP John Mitchell, and just wanted to take the opportunity to thank him for his service, which he rendered then. Listen, Grenada continues to be one of the safest places on earth. Grenada is hosting a Carnival Spicemas. You hear people talk about it, and it's just a phenomenal in that I know people, when I travel, let's say, to Trinidad to promote Spicemas, and they talk about how secure they feel and how welcome they feel when they're here, the hospitality of our people. The whole question of security, they're in the bands, they're jumping, they're having fun, and not being scared of anything. But the truth is that the police force is very much on top of what is taking place. I will tell you, for every event we have, we do a number of site visits. We have done at least 3 site visits alone to the stadium, even before the stage started being built. We're talking about traditional mass, which I will want to speak a little bit as well. 2 days ago, we were up at St. Mark's, literally walking the streets, looking at all the areas that we need to be looked at in terms of what we're going to do, how we're going to set up, where they're going to be parking, where people are going to be allowed to vend and everything like that. So it's a lot. And I'm saying that to make the point. The security aspect in terms of working along with the Royal Grenada Police Force is in full effect. And I think so far they're doing an excellent job.
Let me just add an element here on the security is the crowd control.
Yeah.
Because we having the major events in Kerani Stadium, and you know how the Mondo track is sensitive to, whether it's alcohol or coke. Yeah. Are you planning to cover the Mondo track to assist with that spillover with crowd or whatever may happen?
The track is going to be covered, and the meeting that I just came from, that is one of the big topics that we were looking at. But I come back to the track. I just want to conclude in terms of the security arrangement, because when we look at even things like parking, we have already kind of planned out how it's going to take place, where we're going to allow people to park. We're looking at the possibility of shuttle service to bring people in. So if people are going to park, let's say people are going to be allowed to park in the area around Ariza or the bus terminus or Tantine Playing Field or Tempe Playing Field. And we may not need to use all of those, but this is the discussion that we're having.
Panorama is going to be there too?
Panorama is going to be there as well.
So then you have to have the logistics with the pan moving in and out and not
That's correct.
interfering with the track.
Yeah, and we have already gone and, as I said, done the necessary work. So the pan are going to come in, as you mentioned, they're going to come in from on the Gate 6 area, and they're going to make their way in. So the tracks are going to be covered. We have secure, and we are in the process of actually securing some additional material for it. And by the way, let me take the opportunity and look at the camera and say, for those of you in the lumber industry, for those of you in the paint industry, we're looking for help. No, because today when we did one of our assessment again, we realized that although we have approximately 120 sheets of ply already to make sure the track and part of the field is covered, that assessment shows us that we need another 200. It's approximately $132 for a sheet, thereabout. So if anybody see the need, and we're asking you to please assist us, because it's a serious cost. I'm asking for it. And in the case of Chris, can we have some paint, please? We want to paint the ply, some flat black.
So
approximately $2,000 worth of paint. What? 10 gallons. And we're good to go. Approve. Stay right here.
One body paint for everybody.
No, man. No, not yet. No, but I'm really serious. So we'll talk about that.
Of course.
I know you will assist, right? Yeah. So those are the steps.
What's new for Carnival 24? What's different? What's
talk about traditional mass as well.
The traditional mass. So traditional mass, as we saw even last year, it has, I would say, it has burst onto a new kind of horizon, in that the amount of bands, traditional bands that we had, and the size of the bands we had last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so encouraging that people are actually saying, hey, you guys got to do something about it. So what is going to happen this year is that, whereas in the past we had the traditional mass festival being held and centered primarily at Hero Square in Victoria, this year we literally forced to take it onto the streets and do judging on the streets. Because last year there were hundreds of people there, and people just couldn't quite see or have that clear vision to witness what happened at Hero Square. So we are going to actually having the parades and the judging around the streets of Victoria. And we're encouraging people to come out. Traditional mass, it's so unique to us, and it's so important in terms of our cultural heritage.
We have a question from a viewer. They want to know whether you'll be judging. Are they judging Fancy Mass this year? Is it being judged?
Yes, we have in fact invited the Fancy Mass to come forward for the competition to be judged. Good. And again, and one of the reasons for that, as you asked, as the question is asked, we really want the true colors, the true depiction, the portrayal of what we do on the road as we endeavor to send it out to the world, to be in a more organized manner. And what we realize is that when the bands are not judged, it becomes almost a kind of a party and fete atmosphere. We're not saying we're going to get everybody to join with us at least this year, but we are hoping that if we encourage people to take that direction, one, we see the bands in a more organized manner on the street, something that will afford and want you to really view it and look at it. So you have the bands in section, you have people giving some descriptive on the various section, something that you will make sense going along with the team. So for that reason, we really encouraging.
Another question coming in is that on the question of the business of Carnival, the big businesses are fairly okay. You know, the alcohol, the, what else? Beers, all those things. But the small businesses, the vendors, last year there was a lot of issues or complaints. What position are they in now to make a money, so to speak? Because
Carnival, the issue came up with the change of the route.
Exactly.
They weren't on carnage anymore. A lot of them set up.
Are they being looked after?
They are definitely being looked after. And last year it wasn't really a change of route. It was a whole question of some of the conditions. And I will add it and say it frankly as it is. Part of the challenge with what happened, our roads are small.
Yeah.
But we have the trailer trucks. And in some cases we have 3, 4, even an additional vehicles. That in itself is part of the challenge. And last year, a number of those bands were not willing to go across the carnage because of the trucks, in terms of how you maneuver, you go there. So this year, we were in discussion and continue to be in discussion in terms of them going there. But now we have an additional challenge, which is that of the actual lights which were put up for Independence.
Right.
And we know they're beautiful. We love them. We like to see them there. But we know that the lights are there, it makes it even more difficult for the trucks to maneuver in. So what we are planning to do, and by the way, we are still in discussion trying to see how we can get those lights, if not removed, but turn facing the sea instead. It's a discussion we having.
Let's argue for them to be removed. You know why? Because it's metal and they're rusting right now. And they're going to be dangerous. Just note this from Chris. It's a fact. Right.
But aside of that, we are in discussion as well with certain section and stakeholders for kind of such of the Steelman Association. So if, for example, we are unable to have the lights removed, we are hoping to make the carnage a real festive village, if I may say that way. Trying to get the steel bands and the cuisine to mesh, so that people don't feel out of pocket. But in terms of the vending on the other routes, it has been, and it was good for the vendors last year, and we hope that in fact will continue this year.
Let me ask you about Old Mass and of course our Jab. I know, I believe I'm right or could be wrong, that there were time limits put on when we expect Old Mass to end, and Jab and so on, and that to prepare for Putti Mass and all of that. Are those rules still going to be in effect for Old Mass this year?
They are going to be in effect. And not just for the Old Mass, but even in the case of the traditional Mass, who we are working closely with. And may I say, between last year and now, we have seen some significant improvement in the whole organization of the traditional Mass, in that before there were part of the overall Mass Band Association, which included fancy and traditional. They have now separated and have their own association, referred to as TIMBA, Traditional Individual Mass Association, and Mass Band Association. And I'm making mention of this because what we are doing in conjunction with the Grenada Cultural Foundation is to try to work with the traditional Mass to really get them to reach that stage where the traditional Mass are a lot more appreciated, including that of the Old Mass. Try to get more young people involved so that we can keep that part of the culture alive. And I think from what I'm seeing, it's really going that direction.
The Lions Club putting on the usual thing this year?
It was held last Sunday.
Okay.
And we work along with them. Of course, we give some support to them to make sure it happen. And only today, and just in case, Cafe, you're looking, I'm going to remind people that that you there still a stalwart trying to make sure it happened.
Yeah, that's that passed recently.
I'm going to say that.
From telephone company.
Mr. Evelyn Mark. I still believe from a standpoint of old mass and portrayal, it is one of the best I've ever seen. This guy seems to have been a genius in terms of coming up with ideas to play old mass. But sadly, he has passed, so, condolences to his family. And
we all join. The diaspora, visitors, the region, what kind of numbers are you expecting and what preparations are you making to accommodate them?
So we work along very close with the GTA, Grenada Tourism Association, and they in fact work with the Grenada Hotel Association in terms of making sure the rooms and so are in place. Last year, for example, we had approximately 11,000 visitors coming in. And we are hoping that this year we probably could touch at least 13,000. And the thing is that when we have those numbers, the spill-off are really great. Take it, for example, our sister Isle Trinidad. Of that 11,000, we had approximately 2,000. That is really significant.
Wow.
When you think it's just coming in for
Trinidadian support as well.
They do. And we really, appreciate that and ask them to continue doing it. So the room stock, as you know, and I believe it's going to, it's going to be affected because part of what happened is that with Carriacou being right there, we usually have that spill off in terms of, some of the people coming in for the occasion, spending time there and coming over. So that is going to in some way impact it. But nonetheless, I do believe the numbers are going to be up.
I had thrown it out at you earlier on. I mean, that social responsibility, that alcohol consumption. Grenada is pretty high on the agenda with alcohol consumption in the region, in the world. And we noticed that at Carnival, it goes out of control. But is there a messaging? Is there a communication, particularly younger adults? Because you can see the danger, the damage being done also. Is this something that the corporation has thought about and to address while we celebrate, while we have fun?
And I mean, Baron, you raised it off in the case of alcohol, but the corporation is actually looking at it on a broader scale. So, for example, we are in dialogue with people like the Planned Parenthood Association, and some of these other associations don't come to mind because we see it is not just about the alcohol. Even in the case of the churches, we have had some level of discussion with them. And what we are asking, in the same way that when you do your church service and you do your preaching, remind people it's a time when people go out. What should they do? In other words, we have this social responsibility that we all have to be accounted for. So even in the case of some of the organization, what we say to them is, hey, if you do some little tips on drinking, some little tips on security, you send it to us, we will make sure that we put it on our screen at the shows. We'll make sure that we include it somewhere along with our ads. And we did some of those last year in terms of the Child Protection Authority. They're also on board. So, and this is part of what we continue to encourage our stakeholders. At the end of the day, the stakeholders are not just Mass, PAN, the Calypsonians. We all have to be a part of this to make it work and make it work well.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, finally from me, I mean, I know normally when it comes to Carnival, we always have some issues with promoters and the events that they want to promote. How is that going for you guys this year?
It's going well. I would say it's going well. I mean, I know there was some, should I say, some challenges in some other areas, but generally we try to work along with the promoters, and it is important that we understand it. Spicemas by itself cannot and will not be able to put on Carnival because Spicemas as a brand, as an event, is really for a season. I mean, so it starts at the launch. In this case, we launch on the 4th of May, and it goes up to the week after the Tuesday of Carnival. So it's really a season. And what we want to do and what we endeavor to do is work with promoters to ensure that there isn't that void really. At the same time, and I would hasten to say, at the same time, we try to ensure that we protect our major event in whatever way we can. All right, so when we have the Queen Show, the Soca, Panorama, the Mardi Gras, we just try to make sure that our locals and that no really big competing events.
In the past, they used to have these white shows.
And some of them are still on.
St. George and one up in
well, as you talk about that, I mean, this is one of the issues that came up recently. In fact, one viewer just asked a question that one of Spicemas Corporation policy was to limit for events, not private events, to foreign artists, and there was a debate on this. Certainly, it was a bit controversial. There were feedback on what was the reasoning behind this, and to that extent, where in other territories, as far as I'm aware, there's no limit on 2 or 3 or 4 artists, foreign artists. Why does Spicemas see it as important to implement this?
Well, first of all, Baron, I see of Spicemas. My first take on this will be to, we apologize for the late, if I may say, the late announcement of such a move. But having said that, as I made a point before, it's really about protecting our main event, because sometimes we hear the people speak about what was being said with respect to the 2 artists per event. But really and truly, we have a broad window in which events can be held. And all we are asking for is just those days, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 4 days, when we have our major event, that if there are going to be competing events or events taking place within that time, that
said week.
Yes, within that said, but not even the said week, because for example, the 7th and before the 7th, promoters, it's okay for promoters.
Did local artists interface with Spicemas on this, indicating that it was an issue for them? For Spicemas consideration?
Well, not really, and I'll be quite honest with you. Having had dialogue with some of these artists, you have differences, and it's just human that we do that. Some agree, some disagree. But I will even go as far as to add, even that period, the 8th to the 13th, which is a period specifically that we speaking of. The promoters that usually have events in those times, we were able to have some level of discussion with them. And they didn't have any serious issue with it. So it is something but I want to make the point. I think sometimes what people like is when we are reactive. But I see this as more being a very proactive way of saying we would like going forward to ensure that our major events are protected. So we say it now, we know in advance what would happen. As opposed to somewhere down the road, some years to come, we realize that, hey, we have private promoters now competing in a big way with our national events and bringing in, a quota that we think is going to be a kill to our events. I think it's a good step to say it from now that, hey, this is what we would like to see happen as a way of protecting
and encouraging. Do you have any foreign artists in Spicemas Corporation events?
No, as it is, no.
Okay.
We don't.
Cecile, we out of time. What is your final say? What do you want to leave our viewers with?
I just want to encourage everyone to please support us as best as we can. It is a very challenging job. It is a very challenging product and brand to manage. But at the same time, it is so important when we think of it both from a socio as well as our economic standpoint, that is something that we really need to have and have done well. For those of you, we know what it is in terms of the spill-off you make as a result from Spicemas being held. And we will really encourage people to maybe put a little more into the kitty to help us to help them. Because in essence, that's what happened. When it is pumped into Spicemas and we put on the event and you have that influx of visitors and that influx of the monetary exchange going around, it just benefits everyone. So we are encouraging that. But at the same time, Spicemas is going to happen. We're asking people, hey, be safe, play it well, enjoy yourself, have fun, but let's look out and let's be each other's keeper. As we say, we are resilient people, and we're going to weather the storm together. We really hope we will.
Yes, I'm really impressed. I mean, this is our biggest event, cultural, national event. The amount of visitors we have, 13,000, it's a lot of people. You know?
well,
this is great for the economy.
Yeah,
So we encourage everybody to participate, get involved, be safe, you know, be wise as you do this, wherever you go.
We have to, of course, encourage the young people not to get involved in too much excesses.
Yeah.
And as Cecile mentioned, you know, the whole aspect of family planning and all of that.
Yeah.
Because we know what can happen with our young females and
Yeah.
so forth. So we just need to be careful
That's good.
and enjoy it, but not in excess and go over the board. So, I mean, we are certainly supporting that. You know.
And the biggest news for me was Spicemas Corporation was profitable last year, $400,000. So we wish them they make $1 million profit. And the good thing about it this year, it's going for a worthy cause.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks,
We want to
man.
wish you the
Welcome.
best. Certainly.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay,
Viewers,
thanks.
that's all the time we have. We'll see you next week at the same time. Bye-bye.
Carnival Pulse, a vibrant live broadcast event that showcases the spirit of